You are listening to the Eskimo Empire Podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Empire. It's the Eskimo Empire Podcast.
Here's Mike Riley, takes the drop, waits and throws, and he's going deep downfield. And Darius Bowman. Oh my goodness, what a catch by Darius Bowman. You won't see many better than that. Franklin to Zylstra, touchdown Eskimos. Pressure's coming. Oh, Levi Mitchell goes down. There's a big play for the defense. Somersaults for everybody.
Welcome back to the Turf District for episode 95 of the Eskimo Empire Podcast, brought to you by Allaire Homes. Visit allairehomes.ca or at Allaire Edmonton on Twitter for more information. I am your host, Andrew. Thank you for downloading and having a listen. And joining me, as always, it is the one and only superfan, Mike. How you doing, man?
I am doing awesome.
Excellent. What a tailgate on Friday.
Oh, that was so much fun. We had the pre-season tailgate, which was fun.
Yes.
Good chance for us to work the kinks out and learn a little bit since we've never hosted one. But the response was amazing.
Yeah, I think at one point we had about 20 people just around the tent there, all grabbing some dogs and burgers and just chatting football. We had the Toronto BC game playing in the background.
Got to meet some people that we'd never met, maybe talked to on Twitter. Got to see some familiar faces.
Absolutely, one of which we're going to be speaking to in a
short while,
which is amazing. But yeah, it was really cool to faces to names and just get to kind of meet some people and get some pictures. And I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and kudos to the Eskimos for letting this happen again. They did the 30 stall pilot last year and opened it up to 80 or 82 stalls this year, and the response has been overwhelming. Some of the crowds we've been seeing has just been great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Len Rhodes did go around the tailgate. I knew it was going to happen sooner or later, so we did get to catch up with him for a couple of minutes. And the best part for me is he just said, "This is
fire trucking
awesome." Yeah, and I'm like, yes, it is.
Yes,
and,
it is.
And it's the way. It's all about the event of football, and we've talked about this for so long that being able to go into Commonwealth, we really get that feeling, but I think this just enhances it.
Yeah, I mean, especially having been to other teams' tailgates. Obviously, I've been to, and maybe our guest has as well, been to ones in BC. I've been to, of course, last year I was at the Calgary Labor Day game.
Yes.
Got to hang out with the CFL Horsemen tailgate as well as a few other guys. Been to tailgates at a few different stadiums, and it's nice to be able to see the event that becomes that football game. It's not just those 3 hours now. It's 5-6 hours of hanging out with people, talking football, going to see a game afterwards, maybe talking with them after as well. And I think it's a great thing.
Well, and there you had actually brought because of course of being Canada Day, you brought your all Canadian lineup for the Eskimos of all time, which I mean, amazingly done work, which I think needs to be recognized as well. But great conversation starter as we were standing around there too.
Yeah, it was fun to sort of put together. It was hard for some of it. In some positions were harder than others. Some were hard for different reasons.
Oh my!
As we talked about on the Periscope, doing that offensive line or safety, for example, we have an embarrassment of riches in our history.
Yeah.
There were some of the guys I had to move from safety to defensive half just because there was no way in my conscience I could leave some of these guys off. And then having to get 7 or 8 offensive linemen in 68 years of some amazing guys was tough. And then on the other side of the ball, so to speak, corner was really hard to do because it's traditionally not a non-import position. So for those people that haven't seen it, it's a list of a full roster of 46 players. They're all Canadian. So these are people that are, the majority will be born in Canada. There were a few that were not, but were non-imports as they played. Kamau Peterson is a great example. He was born in the United States, but for all intents and purposes is a Canadian. He's a Canadian citizen.
Yes.
He was trained in Canada. and he was played as a non-import. So as far as we're all concerned, regardless of what that birth certificate said, Kamau's a Canadian to us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was brilliantly done. And it was really fun and nice. You had the copy there to give to Len as well.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd get a chance to see it just because I don't know if he is as immersed in the vast history this team has.
Right.
There's so many things, which is what got me started with the Esks history thing in the first place, is just there's so much great history in this team, and I think that more people should know it because it doesn't get talked about as much, and other than, the 5-in-a-row dynasty kind of thing.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
Just like I said, a lot of fun, and hopefully lots of good conversations that come from it, and maybe people learn about players that they didn't know about. And,
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right. So if you are new to the show and you're joining us, of course, maybe linked in from some of the other fantastic podcasts in the Canadian Football Podcast Network, welcome aboard. We have a great show for you as we will cover the big Esks win over Montreal, another Eskimo history segment, a roundup of the CFL games from last week, our pick'ems for this week, and most importantly, we will have a new featured fan, and we will be joined by a current Eskimo player. And many thanks to Cliff with the Eskimos for helping to set that up. Before we get into that, let's do a quick Empire Points update, our very first Empire Points update of the year. Joe B in first, Coach Vic in second, Chris Curtis in third, and then a whole bunch of people tied. On the Periscope, we did reveal the first part of our Empire Points prize, so check that out there. All right, waiting very patiently over behind his mic, following all of the podcast rules, waiting for his turn. It's like he listens to them all the time. Welcome to the Turf District. Not only a patron of the show, but a fan and somebody who's traveled all the way from Victoria. Bill, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome to be here.
Excellent.
That is fantastic.
Absolutely.
And obviously you're a listener. Thanks. I mean, this is awesome that you were in town, obviously, for the first game, but then in town long enough that we could have you in for the show. So I really appreciate that. Give us a little bit of history, though. Like, when did you start watching football, and kind of who introduced you to the game?
Well, I probably started following sports mid-'70s. I grew up in Vancouver, Lower Mainland, and I started, probably the first football game I went to was at Old Empire. My dad took myself and my uncle, and
which is a fantastic name for a stadium. By the way.
And it was Eskimos Lions, and I probably came away from that game. However, I got to being the Eskimo fan, that kind of cemented it at that point.
Wow.
And, my dad was great taking me to sporting events because, he took me that one. I got to see an early Canucks game. It was Canucks against Chicago when Bobby Orr was finishing up with Chicago.
Oh, wow.
So like those little things, and I think about it myself now that I've got, people looking up to me and my family and trying to expose them to stuff. And that was just, so awesome. And where I ended up on the prairies is my dad's from southern Saskatchewan. My mom's from northern Alberta. So it sort of became a Saskatchewan-Edmonton thing for me. And I landed on Edmonton in the mid-'70s, which is pretty much rolling sevens all over the place, right? So it's just...
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. So that got me there, and I've stayed there ever since. And I've been there for the good, been there for the bad, and my line is, Eskimos win a Grey Cup for me every decade, whether they need to or not. And some decades are better than others. That's all I got to say.
So true.
Nice.
This one, we're only in the middle of this one. We got one. We still got plenty of room.
We got plenty of room. I mean, some of those guys still have lots of fingers to fill up there, unless you're Dwayne Mandrusiak. He's got some toes working on. But so, I mean, having lived in Victoria myself, most people sort of congregated together. You'd see someone else wearing an Eskimo hat or a jersey, and you sort of just be like, hey, how's it? So how has it been like as an Eskimo fan in Lions territory? Obviously, it's a little tougher because you're a little more unique. So how's that been over the last, you're talking 35, 40 years now?
Well, I guess part of the problem is I've never felt I was really in Lions territory in a big way because, one of the things I actually did for when I was living in Vancouver, I did actually buy season tickets on, when the league was in trouble and I'm trying to remember like early 90s or whatever when things were like, I'm going and they were pushing for tickets. Like I think I had seen Lions season tickets for 2 years just because I wanted to support the league. I want, I want this game that I love to be around. And, that was the way that I did it. And but it never connected to me. And like I said, there was never really the critical mass that you could get there. So I never really felt that out of place. Probably about the only thing I can remember is 87. I had one of the nice green light sweaters with the Eskimos logo on it, and I wore it to the to university. I was at UBC at the time. The day after they beat the crap out of the Lions in the Western Final, and my professor looked at it and goes, "You had to wear that today, didn't you?" I'm like, yes, actually, I did.
I was lucky. I mean, going to, like I said, we talked earlier about going to tailgates and everything else. I interacted with a lot of different Lions fans, and they were certainly giving me a lot of the gears, especially in that sort of mid-2000s, post our 2005 win, 2006, 2007, that kind of thing, when we weren't nearly as good. But I found them very, while they were certainly giving me some, razzing me as it went on, they were all very welcoming and supporting. Like I said, we're buying tickets to see games in Vancouver. We're taking the ferry over or flying over, whatever we were doing, and just... It seemed like everyone understood that we're still supporting the league, regardless of who we're cheering for. So that's awesome.
That is fantastic. Now, you obviously started watching late 70s. Did you have a favorite player that kind of you followed really closely?
Well, you know, when I made my choice sort of between the Riders and the Eskimos from that point of view, it was really Tom Wilkinson. Like, you know, because I guess I missed the early 70s Wilkinson. I wasn't aware of him then. So he was the sort of the later Tom Wilkinson, where he sort of, you know, not exactly what you call your elite athlete. But all he could do was beat you, was the line that I always remember. And that was really the, you know, the everyman story, the, you know, he's going to come up and just do the thing. And I remember, I think Ron Lancaster was actually calling the color on a game, and I can't even tell you what season it was. Wilkinson ran like a quarterback draw, and, you know, the line in that day, like, they pushed a hole that was like 15 yards wide, and he ran up the middle, and Lancaster goes, "Well, you don't have to play that one in slow motion. It was already in slow motion." And it's just like, yeah, like, why can't you just gotta love that? And and so he was the one that got me there, the one that probably kept me there, and the 2 seasons I played junior Bantam football, we actually had green and gold colors. It was actually South Delta Rams and that kind of thing, and not exactly a great athlete myself, so but I got 42.
Oh, wow.
Of course.
So, you know, like that.
Ken Ferguson, nice.
Yeah,
well,
you would, yeah, I should have.
Linda's going to reach through and slap you through the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to study all the numbers before I throw anything out on this podcast, apparently. But yeah, it was Dan Kepley, and, you know, I came and the last Eskimo home opener was, I think, 2009, if I remember correctly, and he was on the coaching staff then. I got a picture of him talking to Mo Lloyd on the sidelines, and just sort of leaning down and giving him the whatever, and I sent it back. I got them to sign it for me, and it's hanging on my wall in my office.
That's a great souvenir.
That's, you know, and so that was just, and so, you know, the dynasty years sort of anchors you as a fan, but, you know, there's so much since, and it's just, you know, and you can't even say what you love the most. You just and going to the game on Friday, you know, sitting talking to you guys at the tailgate, meeting the other fans that were there, you know, being around my people, you know, and then going and sitting in the seats, and the fly pass went by, and I'm going like, I was about to cry. I could have just gone right then.
It's a religious experience.
Yeah, and it's like, and, you know, and then we'll talk about the game later on. But but that was like that. You know,
it's like you listen to the show.
I was, you know, I accomplished 90% of what I came here to accomplish when I sat in the seats 5 minutes before game time.
Oh, that's awesome. So you talked briefly about like having that picture. Do you have any other kind of memorabilia that you've got at your house or in your office? Or
I have, you know, I've got a couple jerseys and stuff like that I've had. I think I finally threw away. I had a very badly reproduced Dunnigan jersey, but it didn't have the shoulders and stuff. Yeah. But I still got the sweater that I wore in '87 to my to UBC. I think I still
nothing I have from '87 fits.
Yeah. I don't think it fits either. It's still in the closet, like many other things. And my dad again got me some pictures of. And again, I'm not even going to throw out years because Mike's just going to jump down my throat. But of Eskimos teams, Gene Kaniski on the Eskimos.
Oh, nice.
So there's 2. You know, I see in the turf district you've got some of those. You know, champions of the whole thing. He's mounted for me with the 2 seasons with the Eskimos and from that era. And yeah, that one's on my wall. And when I went to the Hall of Fame on one of my trips back east. Yeah. I picked up a bunch of the pictures from the Dynasty years and a few other things with the complete team photos for 78 awesome. Through 82. I just haven't got a space like this in my house yet. Yeah. Although I'm rapidly convincing myself I should have one.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kiniski was great. I mean, he was an Edmonton boy as well, right? And then more famous now as a wrestler. But
yeah, well, actually, if you grew up in the Lower Mainland, especially around Delta, as a bar owner in Point Roberts, right? Gene Kiniski's the Reef in Point Roberts.
Nice.
That's when I started teaching. Actually, I did my student teaching in South Delta, and that's where everybody went to drink on Friday night.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Good to know. It's still around.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, last question before we get into the game portion, and we ask all of our fans this as they come into the Turf District. What does the Eskimo Way mean to you?
The connection, like it's what I felt this week, right? Mm-hmm. It's just the connection with the community, the people that you have, like, you know, your list of Canadians, you know, they come here, they play here, you know, we've seen more and more of them getting chances down south, but, you know, like they come here, but also the people that came into here that, you know, we've got 2 players that are going to become Canadian citizens, we hope, and stuff like that. You know, you go to games and you see, you know, Gizmo, Brian Kelly's still in town, like all these people. And for some reason, the Eskimos and this concept of a community team and the people that come here and stay here. And
for sure.
As that's, you know, and even the ones that don't necessarily stay here, like the ones that are in Victoria, like, you know, Dave Cutler is in Victoria, Leo Blanchard's in Victoria, but there's this connection of community in one form or another. I don't know how else to say it.
Oh, I think that's a great way to say it.
That totally surrounds everything. Yeah, that's a great answer. Great answer. All right, well, let's get into this big win, shall we?
Yes.
Great big win for the home opener. The Esks win 23-19 over the Alouettes with a very strong second half. Not, as you said, Mike, one of the prettiest games ever.
Sure wasn't.
But they don't ask how, they just ask how many. So let's start with the first half. Did not start in that first quarter. I mean, if you could call almost a worse first quarter, I'd be shocked. I mean, the Owls had 11 minutes of time of possession, and we had 3. We had 2 turnovers, with the second one knocking points, John White out of the game as well, and as it turns out of the season. I think I got an email from Paul shortly after, and the first line was, you know, we can't have atrocious injuries every week. It's got to stop sometime.
One guy going down every week.
Touch wood, absolutely.
Like, but I mean, all that aside, it was just that first quarter. I don't know about you guys, but I was almost completely deflated. I'm like, what is going on? Like, they
guys
need
not
to
hanging on to balls.
Oh my!
Oh.
I thought I was a jinx. I thought I should just leave the stadium at the end of the first quarter. Just like, oh, this is bad news. I'm going to go watch it on TV.
It was, I think part of me trying to be as optimistic as possible thought we had a horrible first quarter, like you said, 11-something to 3-something for time of possession. And we were still within, 10 points.
Right.
And I thought, if we can play that badly and still be within 1 or 2 scores, we still have a chance. We just need to play what we know we can play, especially with this offense. Riley wasn't having a horrible game. It was just, the receivers letting him down by dropping the ball, people turning the ball over, and that was...
Well, in that first half alone, Bowman dropped 1, Zylstra dropped 1 in the end zone.
Yes.
Duke Williams dropped 1, and Hazelton got hit right in the numbers and dropped 1 as well. And I know for me, I'm other than the fact that I was screaming push-ups so many times up in the stands, I think there was just that moment of, okay, guys, like, if you just hang on, we have the lead at halftime. Like that like Bowman's and Zylstra were like that's 14 points off the board.
Yeah.
Like, that was a huge thing. Now, the positive is, of course, it switched around.
Right. The second half was far better. I mean, of course, we all met at West of Us at halftime behind Section G, those that haven't joined us.
Yes.
Come on down. It just seemed like it was more puzzled, was sort of the expression I think I saw on most people's faces. Just, how can this be happening? Like, why can't they turn it around? But it seemed like you were at least moving in the right direction in the second quarter. So the third and fourth quarters, at least so that they could get behind and be down and still come back, whereas maybe previous years' teams would just be deflated and it was done. So.
Absolutely. Bill, your thoughts on the first half? I know we met at halftime.
It was
so,
just like, like I said, the first quarter time of possession, that was just killer. And, it didn't feel entirely out of reach. I think on balance, like, okay, a couple mistakes, losing your running game, whatever. We were talking at West of us about, who's going to step up, how are they going to do it. At that point, Van didn't look very good or comfortable in the running back position. And the one thing actually that have trademark of some of the less than great years that I've seen is that those adjustments at halftime.
Sure.
Is like,
what adjustments?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't make any. And so this is a time where, okay, the team, this is what happened. What are we going to do different? And it came out and for other reasons, I didn't get to stay exactly till the end of the game.
Right.
Okay. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, it never felt like there was no hopelessness. I think the part of the thing was the first game in BC.
Right.
Brought up the expectations so much.
Of course,
that I think that a little bit of rust in some of the things, if this was the first game of the season, you would have written off that first quarter.
Right.
No problem.
Sure.
But we had set the expectations so well in the BC game that this was just such a turnaround. And that was really the shock value that we were sitting at halftime with.
Yeah,
I wonder if it was overconfidence. I mean, you have all of a sudden, you weren't necessarily expected to beat BC in BC.
No.
You come away from with a win. You're playing a team that is... I mean, how do you describe Montreal? They're certainly maybe better than some people have given them credit for, but they're still not necessarily an elite team, or at least haven't proven that they're an elite team.
Patchwork comes to mind.
Yeah, so all of a sudden you've got this team going in there thinking, okay, this should be we should be winning by at least 2 majors.
Yes.
And to come out and be that overconfident, and all of a sudden you're dropping, like fundamentals, dropping balls, turning over balls, that kind of thing.
I guess the thing is, though, is that we did turn that back around.
Sure.
Riley ends up having actually an amazing night numbers wise. 27 of 36, so 75%, 286 yards, 1 TD. And Adarius, although he did have those 2 drops, still comes back to form, 9 catches, 117 yards. Hazelton had a good night. I think when we met at halftime, we were talking there too about, Van having some issues. And I was watching and thinking, the O-line's not really opening those holes the way they were before. And that improved in the second half too. Their pass blocking was stellar this game. I'm very, very happy with that. But their opening running lanes wasn't as good in the first half.
It's a different back, right? I mean, Van and White are 2 very different kinds of running backs. And the type of hole you might open for White who can get through those, or he loves being the hammer rather than the nail. So it's the kind of thing that if it's not all the way there, he'll knock it open himself. Yeah. Van's more of an elusive, shifty guy. He's got some great speed.
Yes.
Why they didn't do more stuff where it was a run outside? Because
I don't get that either. Yeah.
That to me, but I think it's just because they had a game plan set for John White.
Yes. When
he got knocked out of the game, it was just we're not going to wholesale change things, but they did make, as Bill said, some adjustments at halftime.
Yeah. And we did see in the second quarter, like at least one good long drive start to come in, and that's really that's what gave you hope. Is when once you start. I'm trying to remember in the second quarter we had the ball for like the first 7 minutes. I swear, like I'm trying to remember the plays exactly, and didn't produce a whole lot of points at that point.
Right.
But once you saw that thing where we can, this is our field, we own it, we're going to control the ball. That that basically gave brought the confidence back.
Well, and speaking about that controlling the ball, I just got to bring it up now. That final drive where that clock management is probably the best I've seen out of the Eskimos in years. Just to be able to pound the ball, run through, run the clock down. That was amazing.
Riley has shown just the leadership leading these things. The last
Second
game
in a row.
and this game.
Yeah,
so amazing.
Totally agree. Let's talk about our kicker, Mr. Sean White. 3 for 3 with a 55-yarder. Did either of you hold your breath as that one went up in the air?
Because I didn't think they were going to kick it. I honestly think they were just trying to draw him offside. So it was a 50-yarder. They checked the procedure call.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, they're just obviously trying to draw him offside. They're going to throw the timeout signal.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, okay, well, we'll do a timeout, and then we're just going to punt it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, they're kicking this.
Yeah.
And then my breath is like, oh.
Yeah.
And it dropped over, and it's just like, oh, everyone around me was just like, money.
Yeah, exactly. Now, was that the TSN turning point, do you think? Or was there, or do you have a different one in mind?
What about the mess up at the Alouettes drive on all those penalties? Like, that was just a gong show.
First and goal from the 1 to first and goal from the 26, or second and goal from the 26.
I think it was the I think in parlance, what they had the stop, and this was the bugle cry to start pushing them back the other way. And so that part was just like, I think the stop on that side was big, because in the end the defense again came up and did what had to be done on both sides, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I know I'm going back and forth between the Sean White 55-yarder and the interception by Kenny Ladler, which was a beauty. He read that so well. And of course, gained the yards back afterwards. He's in mid-season form, and it's game 2.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys on the defense certainly played a lot better than I was expecting. You didn't hear a whole lot from the Corey Jones side of things, other than the fact that the run game was not the same at all as when JC's in. Run game. Sutton racks up 88 yards on us. But there was no receiver over 45 yards. Right.
So, to me, that tells me that the front 7 is getting pressure.
Yep.
I think they had 8 quarterback pressures in this
absolutely.
game.
Not as big as the BC game, but then, Durant, give him credit. Like, he scrambled on that one for 20 plus. Yeah. And, he still got it. He still knows where to go. And there was one time that he just seemed to pop out of a pile, and I'm going, like, what do you mean we didn't have him?
Yeah,
exactly.
Hey, we didn't give up a quarterback sneak for 60 yards. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
okay.
That comes later.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
All right. Well, this is a great game. Big win, of course, for the Eskimos. But that's another one in the books. So let's go over more books, and let's jump back a little bit farther as we go into our Eskimo history segment for this week.
Let's hear you cheer and holler for a mighty famous team. Let's hear you roar, you know what, for a team that's on repeat. Our voices rise up to the skies, the fans are glad to scream. We love those Eskimos.
Welcome to This Week in Eskimos History. Now, this week we will talk about some significant Eskimo-related dates from July 5th through 11th. Looking at some Eskimo birthdays this week, on July 6th, Darrell Royal, who was our head coach in 1953, would have been 93 years old. On July 7th, Mike McLean, linebacker and special teamer 1986 to 1992, turns 55. And more recently, July 10th, Damaso Munoz, linebacker 2011 to 2013, will be 31. As for current Eskimos celebrating a birthday this week, July 10th, little-known slot-back Adarius Bowman, 2011 to present, will be celebrating his 32nd birthday. Eskimos who have their anniversary of passing during this week, July 5th, 2012. On this date, 5 years ago, Rod Pantages, Eskimos halfback from 1952 to 1954, died at the age of 83. Pantages had a career 5.7-yard average per carry in his 3 years in green and gold, playing both ways on offense and defense during the early years of the franchise. Later in life, he was a national champion handball player, but will be forever known as one of 2 players who won a first championship with both the Calgary Stampeders in 1948 and the Eskimos in 1954. Looking at other important dates in the Empire, we look at 2 important figures in Eskimo history. July 9th, 1966. Edmonton loses a preseason game to the Stampeders in Calgary as Robert Kennedy and his family watch from the stands. This was the first game for the team with their new general manager, Norm Kimball, who had been hired 4 days earlier as the 6th manager of the club, a post he would hold for 20 years. Kimball started slow in his new position, and by the end of his first year would make his second trade an infamous one, sending Tommy Joe Coffey and several other players to the Hamilton Tiger Cats for 4 players, 2 of which who refused to report to the Eskimos, and kept the team in the basement of the division for half a decade. Kimball rebounded nicely, moving forward into the 1970s, building a dynasty that played in 9 Grey Cups in a 10-year span, winning 6, and creating the legacy that remains to this day. And lastly, on July 6th, 1987, 2 games into the preseason, Jackie Parker steps down as head coach, citing poor health, and is replaced by former Esks assistant coach from 77 to 80, Joe Pops Faragelli. Parker, of course, was a legend in Edmonton, having starred here from 1954 to 1962 at halfback, quarterback, defensive back, punter, kicker, and returner, often in the same game. He is likely most famous for his 90-yard fumble return in the 1954 Grey Cup, causing the stunning upset of the heavily favored Montreal Alouettes. Parker rejoined the Green and Gold midway through the 1983 season as head coach, replacing fired Pete Catella 8 games into the season, and rebuilt the team into a perennial contender after the Dynasty era. The Eskimos won the Grey Cup at the end of that season, and all members to this day refer to that group as Jack's team, though he wasn't able to be on the sidelines to lift the trophy again. Parker would return one more time to coaching prior to the 1988 season as the head coach of the CFL All-Stars, who would play his champion Eskimos during the preseason in what was the last ever CFL All-Star game. Thank you again for listening to another episode of This Week in Eskimos History. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Esks History, or find us on Facebook under This Day in Esks History. Until next week, fight on Eskimos.
Going for a touchdown. Going for a touchdown. Going for a touchdown. We love those Eskimos.
All right, thank you again, Superfan. That was another amazing edition of the Esks History, and I always love watching our guests when you do this because everyone is just like, "This is so cool!" Like it's
Story time.
Story time with Superfan Mike. I didn't put Uncle that time. You're welcome.
That's all right.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back with our out-of-town scoreboard, this week's Pick'em, and of course, our interview with our long snapper friend Ryan King.
This is two-time Grey Cup champ Randy Spencer, and you're listening to the Eskimo Empire Podcast.
The Eskimo Empire Podcast is brought to you this week by Allaire Homes. If you're looking for a new home build or a renovation, check out the fine work from Allaire Homes. You can find them at allairehomes.ca, at Allaire Edmonton on Twitter, and Allaire Homes on Facebook. Support them as they support us in building the empire. Hey guys, do you know there's even more ways to interact with the Empire online?
What?
That's right, you can find us on Twitter at EskEmpirePod, on Facebook under the Eskimo Empire Podcast group, on Instagram at EskEmpirePod, and you can also follow us on YouTube under our channel, the Eskimo Empire Podcast. Now, I know you guys like that Eskimo history segment, right?
Yeah!
You can follow more of that information at Esks History on Twitter, and you can find it on This Day in Esks History on Facebook. Don't forget to share, okay?
Okay!
Thanks so much for listening. Let's get back to the show. Patreon, patreon.com/EskEmpirePod. Hey, thanks for helping out the show. I want to welcome to the Patreon club, Kayla.
Oh, nice. Welcome,
Yes,
Kayla's D.
that's right. Yes. And look, I called her by the right name.
You did.
So glad that you are part of it. And of course, we have one of our patrons here tonight as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, we obviously thanks for your support. We had a lot of the patrons at the last tailgate, and it was made even more awesome from everyone's contribution. So again, thank you.
Yes, and everyone got their T-shirts, which is good, right? Oh, look, you even have it on.
Look at this.
Well done.
I tell ya.
Ooh,
Yep.
well.
It's a triple.
That sounded dirty. Okay.
For those that aren't necessarily familiar with it, you do get bonus content at the different levels on Patreon, so there's definitely some perks to joining.
Absolutely. So head on over and join the Patreon club. I do want to take a second as well to recognize Hall of Famer Joe, as he is also donating to Adarius for Autism.
Fantastic stuff.
He has pledged to donate 10 cents for every yard and 50 cents for every TD that AD gets this year. Well done, Joe. And I'm going to try and keep a tracker on this as the season goes down, because I think it's kind of cool. So it's at $13.50 so far. So
it's going to
And that's only 2 games in. So I think that's going to be a great thing to support with Adarius, and of course Adarius for Autism. So check out that website as well. Now, there's also tons of ways that you can actually support our show that don't cost anything. Subscribing, leaving 5-star reviews, sharing the links, and we now have a new way with Seat Giant.
Yeah, so if you need tickets for any sort of event, whether it's a concert, a show, or of course, most importantly, a football game, you can head on down to seatgiant.ca where they have event tickets, and the price is all in Canadian dollars. So
yeah, that's a nice added benefit. Yeah. And even better, you can enter the code
FIRETRUCKER at
checkout and you'll get a discount. And each time you use that, it helps the show out a bit. I did see actually on there they had Duran Duran tickets, so I was a little, maybe I'll have to use that FIRETRUCKER code
maybe
myself.
You will.
That's
remember all your friends.
I'm sure I will. Yeah. All right, let's get to our out of town scoreboard, which this week is brought to you by SeatGiant.ca, where they have tickets for all CFL games. So take us through their superfan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we started off with the Calgary 43, Ottawa 39. That was one of those.
Can we? Is it too early to say that possibly was the game of the year? It had everything.
It had return touchdowns. It had that, again, we talked about earlier, that 60-yard quarterback sneak from a Canadian quarterback.
Just offensive firepower all over the field. I mean, it was amazing.
These two teams are so evenly matched. Yeah. Obviously it was a tie game last week.
Yeah.
Previously in the Grey Cup, they tied at one point. So it's going to be interesting watching. It's a shame that we're not going to see them again this year because they're not going to both be in the Grey Cup.
That's very true. Yeah, exactly. I'm really glad though we have an extra week to plan for Ottawa. Yeah. Whoa, Trevor Harris is on fire right now. So that's something else.
Second game, of course, was right before our game. That was the BC-Toronto game. Seemed to be pretty close up until the fourth quarter, and then BC pulled away, winning 28-15.
They pulled away on a couple of Toronto mistakes, right? And good for capitalizing. And we knew BC wasn't going to be held down forever.
No, unfortunately, I did pick Toronto in the pick'em, so you're welcome, BC, for that one.
Yeah, I got slaughtered this week again. All right.
And then last up, we have, of course, the Winnipeg-Saskatchewan game going to double overtime and then tink off the crossbar. What a game for Tyler Karpinia again, 2 weeks in a row. Winnipeg winning 43-40 over Saskatchewan in their home debut in their new Mosaic Stadium.
So no game this week, so we have a very special addition to the podcast. We were lucky enough to be joined on Skype from our good friend Ryan King. I do want to say thank you very much to the Eskimos and Cliff for helping to set that up.
Yes.
So let's get right to that interview with our good friend Ryan. All right, joining us back in the Turf District, it is our favorite long snapper and part of the Snapping Wins Championships team, number 53, Ryan King. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me back, you guys.
Absolutely. Any time, you know that. So, I mean, we just came off of the Canada Day weekend. How was your Canada Day weekend, and what did you do?
Well, Canada Day weekend was great. It was obviously getting our second win was a big part of that. That was pretty much where our focus was kind of going into Canada Day weekend. But then we got to celebrate a little bit. I went to Sarah McLachlan, got real Canadian, and went to Sarah McLachlan with my girl, and then went to the legislative grounds, watched the $1 million of taxpayers' money get blown up into the sky, which was pretty cool as well. And then went home. It honestly just kind of took it easy. So it's this bye week for me is going to be. It's going to be pretty chill, just trying to recover from training camp and the first couple games of the year and get ready for the stretch.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, what? Just talking about Canada Day and things like that, how much does it mean to you to be a Canadian playing in the CFL?
Well, it's one of those things. Growing up as a kid, you were always striving to do, and it was always the thing that I wanted to do when I was playing football growing up was playing the CFL, obviously. And being a Canadian, I know how much more that means to Canadians out there. I'm a proud Canadian. I love this country. I love being Canadian, living here. I love being in Edmonton. I love supporting Edmonton, and being a hometown kid playing for the Eskimos in the CFL, winning the Grey Cup. You couldn't script it any better, and you couldn't ask for anything else. So. Well, you could. Another Grey Cup would be real good as well. But,
yeah, you read my mind on that one.
It's really a dream come true, and being able to play with my little brother means a lot as well, too. And going into our second year now, it's pretty cool to kind of go through training camp with him. And we room together on the road and all that, too. So it's it's great. It's awesome, and Canadians love the CFL too. The fans across the league are awesome. I love playing on the road. You get nothing but really respect on the road. And it's pretty cool to meet other fans on other teams. They're as passionate as, well, not as passionate as our Eskimo fan group is, but they're there's some pretty cool people across the league that I've met. So absolutely proud to be a Canadian.
So by now, I guess everyone has seen the video of the O-lineman singing on the Sheet school bus, which you were a part of. How much fun was that?
Well, it's just one of those appearances that I had no idea what I was doing, and all of a sudden, after practice, my game jersey was in the locker, and I kind of went, I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we're on the school bus to do with Chris Sheets. And we love Chris Sheets in the locker room, and he's a big supporter of us too. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever Chris Sheets wants. And then I heard right before we went on the bus, we're singing karaoke, and I tried to get out. I'm not a karaoke guy, man. I don't know. I don't care. But it was fun. It was a good, it was a good time. I sat at the very back, so I don't know if you guys even saw me on there, but I was trying to stay out of the video.
We saw you.
It was a good time.
It was funny actually, because Mike said to me, when you think about O linemen, a lot of people wouldn't list you in there, but that's exactly what you are, because you were part of the O line for snapping, and so that was just kind of a neat thing.
I'm a hybrid linebacker. All right,
that's what it is.
I'm 225 pounds. I don't know what O linemen are 225, but hey, man, those are my guys. Those are my guys that protect me on field goal. It's a big part of the game, and they take care of me a lot. Matt O'Donnell and Justin, all those guys look over me like I'm a part of the crew. So it's definitely cool to do stuff with them like that. And at the end of the day, the O linemen are big locker room kind of people. So really, they're the ones they selected me to do this appearance. I didn't really have a choice in it, but anything I can do for the O line too, I'm cool.
Awesome. I mean, back in the day, in the 60s, O linemen used to be 225, 5'11", so you'd fit right in.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Back in the day, but now there's giants out there now, so it's definitely a different ball game now. But I've seen a couple of pictures I always like to when I'm standing up and they're standing up, and like I'm looking straight up at one of these 6'6", 360-pound linemen. And then, you look over across the line, and there's two D tackles coming at me that are all, 6'4", 280, and then there's just little me in there. So the refs have become my friends. I know them, most of them by name now, and they're the ones yelling out pre-field goal to make sure they don't hit the center in the head. So that's definitely, I appreciate all the stripes protecting me out there.
That is awesome. But going back to training camp, you were telling us just how deep this team was. And obviously, lately, that depth is being tested. So let's just say if you were asked, what linebacker position would you play? Would you be middle, Will, or Sam?
Definitely not Sam. Sam's a lot more of a coverage position. That's almost like a DB position. Right. I grew up playing middle through college and through junior football here. So I'd probably be more comfortable playing middle linebacker. But in our system, the Will is a little bit more of a blitzing back and a little bit more it's our Canadian position. So obviously that would be where I would play if I had to. But I wouldn't care, man. I honestly just love I miss playing defense too a lot of times, but I've found my kind of swag in the position, and I've found, I have new goals and stuff like that in the snapping world that, kind of get me through year in, year out, and allow me to come back every year bigger, stronger, faster, or whatever I need to do. So it's I just had to mentally change my game and my attitude from when I obviously grew up playing linebacker for 15, 16 years to then all of a sudden being a snapper full time. So it took about a year to adjust, but I love the role, and I love the leadership role that it brings with it. And obviously with Sean White being our kicker, he's lights out 99.9% of the time. So we got a great group going, and I just glad to be a part of this team, and I just want to go win another Grey Cup.
Awesome. Speaking of that, how are things going with O'Brien being the holder now? Did it take a long to kind of adjust to that?
Not really. I think me and Whitey have worked together, and we had a really good holder with Jordan Lynch last year. So I think the key to all this was we kind of made him into a Jordan Lynch in a sense, and we still snapped the same distance we did with Jordan. And I basically, and Sean, we kind of just taught Danny how we need him to hold, and this is how I can snap. About 90% of the time, laces out. So pretty much all he's got to do is catch it and pin it, and that's what he's been doing. So we've been in a good rhythm. Sean's been hitting his field goals. He's been punting and kicking really well, And, there'll be a couple of hiccups throughout the year, but that's normal CFL 20-game season football.
Yep.
And we just got to, be vets out there and, move on to the next kick.
Very cool. And how did you guys do with like that 55-yarder? We were talking about it in the game review earlier, and that was amazing. I know when they lined up, I'm like, they're really going to go. They're going to go for that. That's like 55-yarder. That's amazing for Shaun White.
Yeah, and he he deserves it. He trained in the offseason. He came in definitely in better shape than last year. Not that he wasn't in shape, but he really focused this year on training to do all three. He definitely got his leg longer, and I think it's more of his confidence. He knows he's the only kicker out there. He knows he's the only guy in the game, and that gives you a little bit extra confidence on game day. And as a kicker, that's pretty much what you ride on. Everyone's kind of trying to put you down in the game if you're on the road, or you just know you're getting critiqued pretty hard after the game if you miss a kick or whatever. So you just got to go out there and just be fearless and just be cool if whatever happens. And, hopefully we're going to wake up the next day and keep doing it again. So I think that's a big part of our system, our rhythm. It brings confidence. And I know Shaun White knows that the ball's going to be exactly where he needs it every time. And if we can do that, our job, then there's a very high percentage chance that he's going to do his job as well too. So we got a good thing going. And I'm just looking forward to kind of getting out of bye week, even though I'm happy to be in bye week, and just getting on the road.
Awesome. So we have one of our followers, Coach Vic, on Twitter. He was asking, with all the injuries on the field, does your family or friends talk about their concern, or is that just taboo? Because he doesn't talk to his own boys about it.
Well, I can tell you, my mom, she's been weathered in the King boys getting rocked in games or hitting people. This has been something my mom and dad have gone through with us for, I think this is my 20th year playing football in a row. And I take a lot of pride in not getting hurt and playing through a lot of stuff. And, injuries is a part of the game. You always hate to see your teammates go down, especially, good buddies of yours as well too. And it just sucks. Injuries suck, and they happen so random. There's nothing you can really do to be protecting yourself in a sense from getting injured out there. It's a violent game. It's a game that is basically evolved from the old gladiator Roman fighting days, and back then people died. We just get hurt. So it's evolved as well too, and injuries happen and there's no way around it. And you just gotta, to be honest, I had a coach tell me when I was in high school football, I remember I got rocked in a drill and I didn't go into it as fast as I could, and I kind of broke down too early, and he basically just ran me over. And he goes, "Listen, Kinger," he's like, "there's two things I'm going to tell you that are going to take you can take all the way as far as you can go playing, and that's speed kills. And every single time you have a play, there's going to be a hammer and there's going to be a nail. So which one do you want to be?" And those two things definitely help. I think you got to play the game as fast as you can. As soon as you slow down in this game, you're in a dangerous spot. You got to be flying around, fearless, just trying to find someone to hit. Because if you can hit someone with that much, speed and energy and power, then usually they're going to be the one taking the hit, and you're not going to be the one. So, but man, I've had tons of injuries. I've battled through tons of injuries. You don't play 20 years football without dealing with a lot of stuff. But nowadays, our training and rehab, prehab, recovery has evolved a ton over the years. So it's pretty easy to kind of fix this up now compared to how it was back in the day. So you just got to trust the process and trust what you do, and just get out there and fly around like you're 21 years old and fresh legs.
Nice. Was that Coach Blake Dermott? Because he was here and he told us that he coached you before.
Yeah. Blake was one of my first coaches, man. Me and Blake go way, way back. I got a ton of respect for Blake. He was a snapper too. He told me to be snapping when I was playing bantam football, and that's a long, long, long time ago. And he's the one that I was originally going to be a DB, and he's the one that pulled me from DB and put me a linebacker. And then I was just an animal out there for 15 years playing linebacker. So he saw a lot in me, and he saw, a passion for the game, and he wanted to put me right dab in the middle. And I was playing middle linebacker, and, I was one of his kind of go-to guys out there. And he did a great job coaching me. And that's a big part of the game. I've had a lot of really good coaches over the years that have taken me for the position that I was in and developed me. I got mad respect for all the coaches that coached me, and I truly 100% would not have been there for all the coaches that have coached me, and not even the coaches that coached me, but the timing he coached me in. I left bantam and went to high school. It was perfect transition. I had a better coach there, and he evolved me to junior. Junior coaches evolved me to university. I had a great university coach. And he was my special teams linebacker coach. I was a captain. I was snapping. Everything. He definitely gave me the right mindset to play pro. And obviously, in pro football, you get the best coaches out there. So it's been fun to evolve over the years as well too. And I you just can't think about injuries. I'm going to go down swinging regardless. If I'm either going to retire or I'm going to go out hurt. So it's hopefully I get to retire.
yeah, we get that.
Got a ways yet, though. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a long ways off. Now, the next question, as you were talking about all your coaches and things, how is it having returning coach this year with McDermott back, and of course, especially on special teams, you end up with most of the rookie guys playing in on special teams. That's kind of how they break into the league. How's it been with the consistency in coaching, and then some of the new guys that you're playing with?
Well, consistency in coaching and in the CFL, basically unless you win a Grey Cup, you're not going to keep your coaches. And we can definitely say that's not the case always. Post Grey Cup win for us and everyone leaving. But, a big thing with getting a new coaching staff is just learning what terminology they use, what systems they run. Everything is pretty much the same across the league in respects to what plays you run. Like, we all line up in basically the same punt formation across the league, but we all call it differently. We use different terminology. Our fakes are probably different, and our philosophy is probably different. So you always start off with a base, and then you got to work from there. And going from Craig Dickinson to Coach McDermott definitely took some transition, but those coaches have a ton of passion. They love special teams, and I see the passion they have. They're fully invested in getting our team better every day, getting our players better every day. They hold me to high standards all the time, which is good to have. They make you feel pressure all the time, and it keeps you better. Bringing in Casey Chin this year for training camp was awesome as well too. I love competing. I'm never shy of bringing someone in to compete with me. In a couple of years previous, I didn't have anyone in, so it was a little different. But it's just learning terminology, learning the systems, learning what they expect from you, as well as just learning all the other coaches as well. We're all in it together, and the O-line coaches come help us with field goal blocking. I was with D-line coach Crehan trying to work on just kind of some hand movement stuff when I'm contacting a linebacker after I punt. So we work with more coaches than just the team coaches, but when it comes to our special teams coaches, I'm really happy with how they've evolved as well too. They take control of the room in meetings, and we're definitely way ahead of where we were the first year with them.
So Uncle BD, who's the Esks stats keeper, was asking, after a game, what's your routine like for the 48 hours to help you recover?
Well, I'll give you the proper answer to that. I've been a pretty win or lose, you booze kind of guy my whole career, but you got to always celebrate with your teammates. I think that's a big important role. Building a team, building camaraderie, taking care of the guys. All the guys are Americans. All these guys are from out of town. I'm from Edmonton. I take pride in being Edmontonian and keeping it real here. So, we'll probably go out for a couple of beers after a game usually, or on the road we'll have a couple of beers, after, and then I go into heavy recovery mode. I just get really hydrated, get a couple recovery lifts in. I'm a big prehab guy, so I have a couple facilities around the city that basically treat me. So I have my physio guys, I have my chiropractors, I have my needling guys, I have everything kind of lined up. So I've evolved that over the years of playing here. From my first year to now, it's just night and day different. I have scheduled recovery basically for the 5 days post game to get me ready for the game again. And I'm definitely, I'm not a spring chicken no more. I'm, getting up there in the football playing world. So it's important to take care of yourself. And I'm a big believer in nutrition and hydration and prehab. Those are my three big keys to being healthy for a 23-game season.
Awesome. I like how you put 23-game season. That was very well done. That's perfect.
Preseason counts, man. I don't care if you guys don't count that. I still got to go out there and run.
Oh, yeah, we count it.
We count it.
I also hate this, too. I hate how they don't count your games. So they don't count preseason games as games, and they don't count playoff games as games. So technically, if I play all 18 games this year, I'll be registered at 99 games played. I got to wait until the next year, game one, to get that 100th game. But, it's all good. I just love playing football, and I love being out there with the guys. And game day experience is so much fun. All the lights, camera, action. I've learned to kind of block all that stuff out, but I definitely enjoy it when I can, especially this last game with the flyover. I'm a big military supporter, and it was really cool to see that. And that's it's awesome to see a couple jets fly over your stadium before you get out there. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think for everybody in the stadium, we love that moment of the flyover. It's so awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you, the last time that we had you on, we were here with Calvin, and you guys, of course, were promoting King McCarty camps and things that you guys were doing. And I saw that you were doing some stuff with like drone videos and stuff. So how's kind of all of that things going?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. We actually had a couple buddies over today for a barbecue, and we were flying it around my backyard, and I was showing them some of the cool stuff we could do. It's my girl. We've been together for 4 years now, and we she's in the media, film, editing kind of world. And it was just something that we started a couple years ago. We were on a trip to Phoenix. We were just trying to figure out, like, what we can do together as kind of a hobby job, and ways that we can use both of our skills to do something really cool. And I went out and invested in a drone, and we started filming with him. We got some unbelievable film footage of all of our adventures we basically go on. And so now I have 3 drones, and I've upgraded a whole bunch, and I take them everywhere with me. If we're going to the mountains, we're droning all along the way there. If I go on vacation in Mexico or something like that, I'll take it with me, and I'll shoot the whole resort and stuff like that. And it's been a lot of fun kind of doing that. It's like a big video game for me. I'm flying around. I don't know if you guys have flown them, but they're pretty cool. One of my drones goes almost 1,000 feet, can go about 5 kilometers away, and goes up to about 60 kilometers an hour. So you can only imagine what kind of fun you could have flying one of those things around. But no, it's great. It's just more of a hobby for me and my girl. We do a lot of videos, do a lot of kind of charity videos. She uses it for her work quite a bit, and we get a lot of requests, but a lot of it's during season, so we can't really commit to a lot of stuff. But we still get out there and do as much as we can. In Canada, it's a little bit different laws, but I'm pretty good at flying that thing, so I'd be pretty hard to get caught. So I probably fly more than I should be, but we definitely have a lot of fun with it.
Well, after your playing career, I guess you could always work for TSN to get those great angles too.
Well, yeah, whatever. It's just it's I plan to play many more years.
Oh yeah.
This, so it's it's taken a little bit of taken a couple years to kind of understand the process of playing pro football. It's tough to get another career exactly when you're playing. I'm a multi-tacker kind of guy, and I want to always get out there and do as much as I can. But you got to understand and respect the process and the timing of everything. And it's just you want to get set up for when you're done playing, but that's going to take an adjustment year anyways when you get out. And so the more things you can get yourself into, the more people you can connect with, and more contacts you can make, the better chance of being successful after playing pro football. So it's one of those things where it helps me meet people and get out and meet people I would never meet outside of flying a drone. So it's you definitely meet some unique people that need our service, and it's been fun kind of working in that world.
Awesome. And anything on the plate for King McCarty camps as they come up?
Yeah, we totally. So King McCarty went almost too good for us when we first opened it. It got really busy real fast, and so we were a little bit behind, the social media aspect and just getting all of our, dots and dotted I's and T's crossed and all that. And we had a good off season this year. We shut everything down for the 1 year, and we've kind of revamped our whole philosophy and what we want to do and how we want to actually affect kids. Running camps are great, but we want to work a little bit more individually with kids and working in smaller groups, because then it allows you to work with them, more on a yearly basis versus just a yearly camp, right?
Nice.
We had a lot of requests saying, when's the next one? When are we doing this? And they don't understand. It took us 50 hours of meeting and setting up and getting everything ready and getting it all organized, and so it takes a lot of work to do that. So we've actually brought a couple other people on our staff that's going to be helping take a lot of pressure off us in the whole setting up and getting the kids registered and all that, because we did it ourselves before, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of kind of energy to be. And we want to put the best possible camp on, which I think we're pretty confident that we did, and we don't want to put a half put together product out there. So that's kind of why we kind of shut it down, because put the same camp on for 3-4 years in a row. So we wanted to kind of adjust it, change it up, so the kids can get the best exposure to us, and we can get the best out of them as well too.
Outstanding. And of course, as always with any of those endeavors, if you need our help to help promote it, we're happy to help you guys out, because I know both experiences look amazing, and I've been obviously firsthand with the King McCarty camps, and it was awesome, not only for the kids that are involved, but as a parent to watch them learn and do new things is fantastic. So I think you guys do really, really well with that. We can't thank you enough for taking some of your time out of your bye week. What do you have anything else fun planned this week, or what's up for you for the bye?
I'm in a couple golf tournaments the next couple days, and then I'm just going to be just hanging out. I get week 2 bye week isn't really the fun bye week, we'll say. It's more the kind of rest, recover. This date's been circled on my calendar since training camp started, and that was a long time ago. So, basically when season started, I just tried to survive till now. And then obviously we're 2-0, so it comes to a great bye week feeling. And I just need to just rest up and get ready to get going here. And I think that's the same mentality all the guys are going to have too. It's going to be kind of get your bodies right and just catch up on your sleep. And I'll tell you, it was weird today. I woke up at like 10 o'clock and I kind of scrambled like I was missing practice, because today would have been day 1. So it was your body, is just used to getting up at a certain time and being on the field at a certain time. And, we as athletes, you don't really know what day of the week it is. We don't work on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday scale. We work on a day 1 through 4 travel day, game day, day off scale. So a lot of times I even lose what track of day it is out there. I just know what I got to do for football. So it was my body this morning woke up and I was almost freaking out. I'm like, coaches are going to be so mad. I'm going to get fined, all this. And then I'm like, oh, wait, bye week. I got nothing to do. So it was, I went in the backyard, called a couple buddies over. We had a barbecue, and we've just been soaking in the sun as much as we can right now.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your bye week. Thank you again for coming on the podcast, and tell everyone where they can find you online and all those other kinds of things.
Yeah, you can get me at Twitter at RyanKing46 or on Instagram, RyanKing5353. And those are the 2 social media platforms that I try to use as much as I can. I kind of got off Facebook and all the other ones just to kind of focus on those. And really, it's not really about social media. I kind of hate all this stuff, but I understand where it's going now. And, connecting with the fans is important, and I try to do as much as I can. Obviously, social media wise and keeping everyone updated on what's going on. But yeah, if you give me an ad, I'll definitely give you a follow back and keep you updated on what's going on.
Awesome. And we'll have you over near the Turf District here one of these days, and you can snap one of the beer cans off my head or something just for fun.
Hey, buddy, I'm always down to do that.
All right. All right. Thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, let's get into our pick'em for this week. Of course, we don't have a game ourselves, so this will be a little more fun. But join our group with the link that we've posted a couple of times there. The leaders this week are TXA Trevor, our Tailgate Bud Daniel Town, C. Vincent, Steve O, and the Esky Chick, better known as Tree.
Oh, so I dropped out of the top 5.
We both got some brutalization this week.
Good for those guys for getting in that top 5, though.
So what I've learned out of this is that whenever I pick, I would just ask you to pick opposite, because more likely you will do better than picking what I pick. So let's start with our first game this week, BC versus Montreal, and this is in La Belle Province. Look at how I even did it.
Ooh la la.
Oh, well. Let's start with you, Bill. Who do you have in this game?
Having not seen anything of that BC Toronto game, it's really hard to say. The Alouettes, they played us hard, so you got to give them there. And does anybody know BC staying out east for the games? I don't even know.
I haven't heard
that they did.
So
would make sense, but
yeah. So it's Alouettes are still a total coin flip. I got to go BC. They just at a certain point the quality and the skills got to come out, and they're more together team at this point in the season.
Fair enough. Super fan?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Bill on this one. I think that Montreal has played better than a lot of people gave them credit for before the season started, but I think BC has underwhelmed in both games, and I think that they're just going to get better as the season goes on, and this is where they're going to really make a statement.
Absolutely. And I am going to go with BC as well. I think they're just getting that offense together, and that is going to make a huge difference in this game. All right, our next game is Calgary versus Winnipeg, and it is Winnipeg's home opener. This is going to be an interesting game. Superfan, you get to pick first.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game, but I honestly think that after two very close games for the Stampeders, they're going to just start unloading on the Bombers. And with the defense not nearly as strong as they seemed to be last year, I think it's going to be at least a 14-point win for the Stamps.
Oh my, that's a really big win. Okay, I am picking the Stamps in this game too, but I'm picking them more because I think that the Stampeder defense is better than the Saskatchewan defense. So I just think that is the difference, right?
Yeah.
Although I do have to give Winnipeg credit that offense came to life and they were putting up points with a lot of breakdowns with guys that were young guys in a defense.
Yes.
So I think Calgary covers that, and then they hold on to their lead when they've got it.
I'm going to be the contrarian. I'm too much of it. I'm still supporting good old Matt in Winnipeg, and any chance to vote against Calgary, even if I lose the pick'em this week, is probably worth. I think Calgary still got some holes in the game. Like what I saw was a lot of points getting put up, but I still think there's some ways that if you can keep Mitchell a little bit out of the game and frustrated, you can beat them. So yeah. I'm gonna give it to Winnipeg on this one.
All right, wow, that's good. I always like it when we have differences, so that's good. Okay, next one: Toronto versus Ottawa in Ottawa. I'm going all Ottawa with this one. Yep. They've shown in the last 2 weeks that they have a ton of firepower. And their defense, although at moments can be suspect, I think they've got enough to pull that down, especially in their home barn. So, Bill?
Yeah, same thing. Ottawa, champion coming back home. They're 0-1 at this point. They're going to want to just load up and beat the crap out of somebody. So I'm going to take it as this week is going to happen.
All right.
I'm picking this to be the upset of the week.
Okay. Oh,
I think that there is some suspect in the Ottawa defense, and I think that Toronto is going to be taking advantage of it. Being in the East and having a chance to make a statement in the East, Toronto is, especially with Trestman, I just hate betting against that guy. How many times did we see him in Montreal? And I think this honestly is going to be a closer game, and it will be an upset for the Boatmen.
All right. Okay. Last one. And this is a tough one, I think, to pick. Because we've only had 1 week of seeing Hamilton go, and we've had a couple of Saskatchewan in both very, very close games. So Hamilton versus Saskatchewan, the second game in New Mosaic. Okay, who do we got in this game? We start with you this time again, Superfan.
Oh, this is so tough because, honestly, I don't think Saskatchewan has played that great, but I'm just going to say at the end of this one, Owen will still be alive. Of course, that could go for either one, right? So
that's true.
These are two undefeated, are non-winning teams, but I think it's going to be 0-3 in the rectangle, and the pressure is going to be turned up on Mr. Chris Jones. On the plus side, some great interview videos that have been on Twitter are coming out, so we're going to see more of those, unfortunately, for the fans of the rectangle.
All right. Bill, who you got in this one?
Oh, can I call a tie for this? I just
you can. Yeah.
You really thought that Hamilton was going to be better than this. I think Collaros is still a big question mark right now. I don't know what the heck's going on there. Otherwise, if they were where you thought they were going to be, then you call them and think. So I'm going to go with Hamilton just because, like I said, I'll go for the Chris Joe's interview afterwards. Although a Kent Austin one would be good too. So
I just believe more. To me, I believe more in Kent Austin's preparation than Chris Jones right now.
All right. I am totally torn on this one. I have to say, I don't know who to pick. My heart tells me pick against Chris Jones, but my brain is like he can't just lose forever, especially at home.
Yes, he can.
Oh yeah.
Well, I would like him to. That's different. But I think just to be different, I am going to say that Saskatchewan pulls this one out at home, gives that Rider faithful something to get excited about in their new stadium. And honestly, I just don't see enough in that Hamilton offensive line to hold that front four, or front three as it turns out in Saskatchewan, from getting to the quarterback. And if they're getting to Collaros, he can't function. So I'm going to give this one to the Green Riders, as much as it pains me to say it. All right. Don't forget to join our CFL fantasy as well. I'm getting my fire truck handed to me as every player I pick either gets hurt or decides to not chose to play. Anyway, so I'm picking all Calgary players this week. In that league right now, the leader is N. Hodge, second Wolf Hunter, 3 Andre Boisvert.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And we're just going to do the top 3 in that one. Of course, we are getting some prizes in from the CFL for that, so we will have some prizes coming out very soon. You can join the Eskimo Empire Pod League, or, of course, join all of your favorite podcasters in the Canadian Football Pod Network, as we're going up against all of our many different listeners. And, again, I'm... Yippee mid-pack.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's awesome. But if you had to pick kind of a fantasy guy that you would pick, we just talked about all those games, Bill. Who would you pick for your fantasy guy to pick this week?
Well, considering I got my butt kicked in week 1 and made a monster comeback in week 2, I'm thinking I should probably just sit on the sidelines and flip coins this week.
As do we all.
Yeah. Who do you take? I guess I'd probably be looking for a breakout running game by somebody. And so you look at all the games that are on the map there and say, okay, well, I guess Jerome Messam on that. You made a joke about taking Calgary. If, even on the worst day, Messam's going to put up numbers. Like, the guy is just...
That's not true. The last 2 weeks, he has done me in.
That's exactly why I think I should pick him.
Yeah. I'll pick him, and guess what'll happen?
Go.
6 yards on 80 carries. Yeah, good Lord, that guy. Anyway, all right, well, that's okay. Yeah. It's a good point, though. It's a good point. Superfan, who do you got?
That's how I had down on the list. As you said, Messam has not had great numbers, especially for fantasy, in the last 2 weeks, and I think he's looking for a breakout game, and this was going to be it for him. So that's why I've got...
Actually, the fun one, and I'm still not sure how to pick these, is when you pick the defense.
Yes.
That one's a tough call, because you're really not sure what puts together the best points. Like,
right.
There was a bunch of interceptions. There's a lot of that's the one I'm going to spend half the season figuring out what the best pick is there.
I think the defense that I would pick this week, and again, pains me, but I picked the Saskatchewan defense. Because
at home,
that's at home. They are getting interceptions. They are putting some pressure on the quarterback. I think there's something to be said there. But if I was going to go with a player, I would actually really. I always try to look at where do I want to start with as far as the quarterback is concerned. And I have a feeling that Trevor Harris, you want to pick him up before he starts dropping off, which he usually does mid-season. And this is like a prime game in the East at home. Pick up Trevor Harris. I have a feeling he's going to light up some points on that board, and 4 touchdowns last week. So
we'll soon see.
Absolutely. All right, well, we have reached the end. Thank you so much, guys, for being a part of it, and Bill for making part of your vacation time down here with us in the Turf District.
Spending it with us, yeah.
Yes, we very much appreciate it.
Been awesome to be here.
Oh, well, thanks. And tell everyone, where can they find you on the interwebs and all those fun things?
Oh, well, I guess I'll do Twitter, because that's where you're going to find me, calling off Joe and a few other people.
Excellent.
So it's Wake MP on Twitter, and you're going to catch me there, and watching you guys on the Periscope as well.
Oh, awesome! And of course, yes, you are part of the Patreon as well, and so you can tell everyone how wonderful it is. No, I'm gonna super fan.
You can find me at 56 Parkies, and then of course the history at Esk's History.
Exactly, and you can find me at Esk Empire Pod, and of course at Freepalicious as well. So thank you again for downloading, as without you there is no Empire. And thanks again to Allaire Homes for sponsoring this episode. Follow them at Allaire Edmonton on Twitter, and visit their website, allairehomes.ca. Show is back next week, and we will have a long-time Esks fan in the Turf District. So isn't it awesome to have current players on the show?
Absolutely.
Will we still watch all the CFL action this week for our fantasy picks?
Absolutely.
And are we fired up to be 2-0 into the bye week? Absolutely. For Bill, for Ryan, for Superfan Mike, I'm Andrew. Remember, you can't catch footballs with your face, and we will absolutely talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.